And what's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? Your dynamic duo, the Thriller and Madman, back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And what a fun live episode we got tonight. Thanks so much to everybody for making us a part of their evenings. So grateful if you hit that like and subscribe button as we are officially in the new era of UCLA football. Today, the formal introduction of the one and only Bob Chesney. So much to unpack. There was a great press conference. There were a lot of things that were said. There were a lot of things that were inferred. And so it just feels like a special day indeed. Thriller, before we get into it, how we doing? Great to see you. I literally sort of came back from Phoenix tonight. I've dropped my bags. I'm in studio, ready to talk with my brother from another mother. Thriller, how you doing? And man, oh man, what a day this is.
What a day this is. And this shows you the type of partner I've got in this game in the Madman. He had a business trip in Phoenix, but we were so excited about this Bob Chesney news. We could not wait to discuss this. We had to discuss the opening press conference and what we saw. What an incredible start to this, man. And let's start at the top, Madman. We could stop in different parts. I want to start from the guy who spoke at the very beginning of this. When was the last time a chancellor spoke for UCLA to start things moving forward? One of the big talks was the alignment of, from the chancellor to the athletic director to the coach. And we saw that very clearly. I went back and watched the Chip Kelly press conference. I went back and watched the DeShaun Foster press conference, the Rick Neuheisel. None of them had the chancellor on hand there. And I think that is the first win in all of this, because when a university fully backs their football program, we talked about it on the last episode, we've seen the results of what this can breed. You're looking at what Texas Tech is doing right now. We're looking at, an Indiana-like situation with Curt Cignetti, who we believe this guy can maybe be the next person of that ilk. It was such an encouraging start. Julio Frank saying, and he had the great quote where the athletics for a university could be the front porch for kind of the press and everything that goes on within a university. Laid it off perfectly. Let's start at the top, Madman. What did you think about Frank coming out? Because I expected Jarman. I expected our guy Bob Chesney to come in and make some waves. I did not necessarily expect Mr. Julio Frank to lead things off and hit a leadoff home run at that.
No, Thriller, I'm so happy you started there, because that's exactly where I wanted to start. It's only fitting that we start at the very top. And what have we been talking about, Thriller, really for the better part of the last 3 or 4 years since you and I have been doing this podcast? We've had some great moments, and then in our moments of struggles, the big question has been, look, just how committed is UCLA to football? And just given the complex ecosystem that is this university, the decorated institution that is this university, world-class brand, world-class research. We're also proud to be Bruins. There's so much going on that where does football fall in the grand scheme of things? And the fact of the matter is, you and I have lamented over the days of Chancellor Charles Young, who cared so much about football, and it showed on the field as well as holistically with the athletic program. And we've had a couple of chancellors since then who are phenomenal academics, but clearly football wasn't as high a priority to them as Chancellor Charles Young. That felt like a resounding back and a call to arms to the way Chancellor Charles Young was. Julio Frank, I'm a huge fan of his. I've had the privilege to have gotten to meet him a few times. He is so eloquent. He's such a great leader. He has such tremendous vision. And, with everything, Thriller, think about this, and we keep it to football. We're a sports network. We're a sports podcast. But just think about everything that has gone on with UCLA over the last 12 to 15 months in terms of larger narratives. I mean, when you talk about politics and, national issues and all of these things, think about everything that has been on Chancellor Julio Frank's plate. His second day on the job as UCLA chancellor was the LA fires on top of everything else that was going on. So he hasn't had really a chance to even breathe since he's been the chancellor. And for him to step up and basically really be the tone setter of this event this morning, I thought spoke absolute volumes. And the fact is, I think he's seen what big time football looks like at a place like the University of Miami. I think he sees what it means for fundraising, both in terms of football fundraising as well as university fundraising. And I think he understands that to be truly a world-class institution holistically, you got to be committed to football. And it was just so refreshing to hear him speak. You know, he always has the great allegories, the great analogies. But I think Bob Chesney said it as well. You know, I need people, right? He said alignment was the huge word that came through between Chancellor Frank, between Martin, between the search committee. It was the question that I had, Bob Chesney said. And you know, Bob, I think, broke it down really well, where he said, look, whenever I come into a new situation, I ask for three things. You know, do you understand? Do you care? And do you want a partner? And you need all three of those things. And he said, look, it came in spades that he was that this was the place that was willing to do that, Thriller. So I think point number one, Chesney and this full alignment with Chancellor Frank seems very, very exciting. You know, I think another point to bring up here, Thriller, and we'll take it in any number of directions, but the contract value, $33.75 million,
Yes.
5 years. You know, you're right at $7 million a year. Okay, so this is when highest market rate right now is like $12 million for the likes of Lane Kiffin at LSU. For UCLA to go to $7 million, I think speaks volumes of what they're seeing potentially in the future. Let's not forget, Bob Chesney has not coached a down of Power 4 football yet. And for him to get $7 million a year shows UCLA not only sees such massive potential in Bob Chesney, but also is ready to put their money where their mouth is. I thought, Thriller, another very interesting point was your man, Bob Myers, and a couple of things he said.
We can talk about that. We can talk about that.
I thought the big kind of alarm bell statement he made was there was a commitment to Bob Chesney that UCLA was going to be in the top 25%, the top quartile, or the top third at the very least in terms of NIL spending in the Big Ten. And Thriller, I want to spend some time talking about that because there's 18 teams in the Big Ten, right? And so if you do basic math, the top third means you're top six. And if you're in the top quartile, it means you're in the top 4 or 5. Let's think about this for a second. Let's just say, you know, we'll be conservative in terms of Bob Myers' statement and say, okay, you're going to be in the top third. What does top 6 actually mean in the Big Ten? You've got Ohio State, you've got Michigan, you've got Penn State, you've got USC, you've got Oregon. And essentially what Bob Myers is saying, that UCLA is the next school slotted in terms of financial resources in that to make up that group of 6. Yeah. I thought it was a significant statement, maybe more significant than anything Bob Chesney himself said, is what Bob Myers said about where they see UCLA's placement from a financial resources perspective relative to the rest of the Big Ten. Your thoughts on your guy, Mr. Myers, Thriller?
Well, the statement, you know, had shockwaves associated with it because what we've always put forth, what the old UCLA adage has been since we have started this podcast, Madman, is if you can bring the money, it's like it's Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And essentially with what this is going on here is he said he's going to put in the top upper echelon of money spent in the Big Ten. Now, what does that look like financially wise? Iowa is spending about $55 million a year, and they're like the 20th team in the country for what we know about on the pay stubs that have been reported, right? Can we put $55 to $60 million into our football program? We easily can, and it looks like the university, starting with that Julio Frank conversation, starting with Myers openly saying this to the public, which gives us, you know, some crazy expectations. I think we can do it. You look at how this university has responded, where, you know, we're trying to break a Rose Bowl lease by paying 60 to 80 million up front. We're talking about how much real estate has UCLA bought around the LA area for billions of dollars. That's not even just a pun intended. That is a real dollar sign associated with that. The money has always been at the blue and gold, fours up UCLA institution. We just have not allocated it to football. But if we want to get serious about it and start allocating some of this money to the football program, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because if we got the resources, and Bob Chesney, the quote of the press conference, Madman, you often bring up the Rick Neuheisel quote. He says this, Bob Chesney, we don't need to be the other school in town. We need to be the school in town. So UCLA is coming. They are swinging for the fences with this hire. They're trying to get the resources to match the hype of this hire. And I mean, UCLA fans, you got to be thrilled after this press conference because obviously job well done is always better than, job well said, if you will. But, you can win a press conference, and Bob Chesney hit a grand slam home run today.
No, Thriller, I think you said it best. That was his greatest soundbite, in terms of we don't need to be the other town, the other team in town. We need to be the team in town. And I think that resonated so deeply. And Thriller, to sort of your earlier point, UCLA's top 3 endowment in the Big Ten, right? It's Northwestern, it's Michigan, it's UCLA. Those are your top 3 universities in terms of endowment amounts. So the pockets are there. The money is there. Obviously, there's different colors of money. There's different priorities. But when you talk about alumni base, your ability to fundraise, when you talk about enough individuals that care so deeply about UCLA, it's all there. It just where it needs to come together is, do you have a leader? Do you have faces of the program? Do you have faces of the university that are going to bring people together and prioritize it? And that's what resonated so deeply here today, Thriller. I think the other theme, and, it's interesting, we're talking about, references to other team in town and whatnot. I have to say, the way Chesney talked today and his level of energy, number one, his eloquence, number two, I think his ability, you tweeted it out earlier today, his ability to communicate and connect with people, it's so effortless and it's so genuine. He's got charisma oozing in spades. I think we saw that when him and his family got down from the private jet and his whole family was decked out into UCLA gear. We saw that in spades today. But also, I think the theme that rose very, very highly is about competition, and that everything is going to be a competition. Competition is central to what Bob Chesney wants to do. And I think that, Martin quoted it here earlier today where he said, Chesney's not afraid of the grind. He understands what hard looks like. And I have to be honest with you, Thriller, it's 25 years just about to the day when Pete Carroll was hired at USC. And I have to be very honest with you, this felt very much like Pete Carroll that day. It's super high energy, super high charisma, the emphasis on competition, the young vibrancy, understanding what this university could be. Look, I'm not saying it's going to be that level of results, but I got to be honest with you, it felt like Pete Carroll, his opening press conference at USC. And I think Bolch said it best earlier today, our good friend Ben Bolch. He said, I've been covering this team now in my second stint for over a decade. Today was a day of energy that I felt in over a decade since I've come back to cover the team. So, Thriller, your thoughts on the level of energy, what I just said, and anything else you'd like to add?
When we were starting this coaching search, I said there was one specific coach in the UCLA lore that I was looking to go with to kind of match that energy and bring him as the new coach. And it was Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil, the great Dick Vermeil, who coached this team back in the 70s, upset number 1 Ohio State at that time. And the thing I always loved about Vermeil was he was an optimist. He was positive, but he wasn't going to cut any corners either. He was going to do things the hard way, and the results would show. He did that later in the NFL with the Eagles, most notably the greatest show on turf with the Rams. And that's the vibe I got from Bob Chesney. Dick Vermeil and Bob Chesney are souls. And Chesney even went on this little cool thing talking about his background, his family. Yeah. If this guy is more of a football coach, than anybody out there, I'd like to hear who they are, because what he essentially said was his dad was his head coach at high school. His grandpa was the O-line coach. His uncle was the wide receiver coach. Their neighbor and close friend was the guy in the film room. This guy was bred to be a football coach in all senses of the word. And look at their product right now. I mean, he's got James Madison going to the playoffs, and he's about to take over this UCLA program on the West Coast. And I think the thing that made me just as excited was the video you talked about of him addressing the team. And I thought there were some really great points in there. He goes, this isn't like me coming in saying, this is how we have to do it. You know, you guys got to follow me kind of like a dictator. It's like, I want to meet with all of you guys individually. We're going to set goals and standards ourselves, and then we're going to go out and achieve those goals and standards. So he's talking to them not as like a disciplinarian, but as someone that wants to help them reach their goals and ceilings. I think in today's environment of the youth, it's those younger coaches like those Sean McVays or those Kyle Shanahan type of guys, Lane Kiffins, that are like can able to really tap into those elements. And I think Chesney's got a lot of that. So that's what made me really excited. It was just an awesome start to the day. And then, I mean, you saw him addressing the whole UCLA when he arrived yesterday and just an auditorium. This guy's built for LA, and I think he's going to be built for success if the university is backing him as much as we think he is.
No, Thriller, I couldn't agree with you more. And I know you're a big Niners guy, so you might have to cover your ears here. But, you know, the LA market, and I felt it too, it felt very Sean McVay also, right? Like we're talking about Vermeer, we're talking about Pete Carroll. It also felt like a lot like he looks like him a little bit too, doesn't he? And that energy and that vibe and the way he sort of conducts himself. And think about what the Rams were the year before Sean McVay arrived. I mean, the Rams were playing in the Coliseum. They couldn't score more than 10 points a game with Jeff Fisher. And then McVay comes and bang, you know, with the jolt of lightning, everything changes for the Rams. And I think we're thinking there's going to be something very similar here with Chesney, Thriller. I just, you know, again, kind of going back to his story, I'm so happy you brought that up. It was so well said. I love the fact that, you know, he's got everything that is UCLA. You know, he's got that aura, he's got that charisma, he's got the competence, but he's also a little bit of that underdog. You know, it's all of the things that make UCLA so special. Perfect. He referenced, you know, his first ever, you know, assistant coaching job. He was making $5,000. You know, Jim Hill, the great Jim Hill of CBS, got the first question in the Q&A, asked him about pressure. What an answer he gave. He said, you know, when I was an assistant at Johns Hopkins, you know, our coach said the only people that reserve the right to say that they're feeling pressure are individuals in the military who are literally in these life and death type of situations. And now having said that, you know, here's how I approach pressure. I mean, just this holistic perspective that he has. And what I also love, Thriller, is he's come from places that really value academics very deeply as well. And so he kind of understands how to navigate being a really great football program and also sort of understanding and working not around necessarily, but working with these very high academic standards. The alignment, Thriller, was just so evident, not just between, you know, Chancellor Frank, the athletic department, Martin, everyone, but I just think it felt like a match made in heaven. Bob Chesney and UCLA, I am bursting. I mean, I keep using that word this week. There is a vibe and there is an energy. And if UCLA figures it out, Thriller, if UCLA figures it out, you know, this has been a sleeping giant for 25, 30 years. This city loves this school. This city, I think a vast majority of the city identifies with UCLA. UCLA is such a lovable brand, locally, nationally, internationally. If UCLA can start winning and start doing so consistently, that snowball effect that's going to take place, I don't think we've seen anything quite like it over the last 25 or 30 years in this program. And I just think this was a moment in time. We are going to look back at this day as the day that it all began.
There's some fits that feel just tailor-made for one person to another. And just the way that Chesney's talking about academics, he's like, I'm going to do class checks. Like, I'm going to go walk on campus, make sure my guys are in the classes they need to be. And just the communal approach he was talking about. Like, I want to get out in the community, go to elementary schools, you share the brand of UCLA football, like go to other sporting events. It's not just about the football team. It's about being a UCLA Bruin. It's such a perfect fit across the board. And, him being at other academic places like Johns Hopkins is one of the premier medical schools within the entire country. He had some great quotes on that where it's like, I was able to change some kids' lives, like for coming to the football program, they've got into the medical school at Johns Hopkins. Like that is a game changer for if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be in medicine, things like that. So he's like, UCLA is the #1 public university in the world. I'm going to be changing more lives when you come to be a UCLA Bruin. So everything, like every
I eat all that stuff up, Thriller. You know that. You know how much I eat that stuff up.
How can you not be excited about that?
How can you not be excited? I think it was a great comment there by Be Happy 6215. Look, man, Dave Roberts also, so much came out of Dave Roberts being involved. I mean, think about that love. Dave Roberts going through this iconic October run, pulled in all of these different directions. And he loves his school so much that he wanted to jump in and help. And I mean, think about that between your guy, Bob Myers, and between Dave Roberts. I'm reminded, Thriller, that you and I are both such NBA guys. I'm reminded of that summer of 2010 when Pat Riley had to sort of recruit, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, where he came in and he famously went to LeBron. He famously went to LeBron and he poured, he put out all his rings and he said, yo, this is what I can do for you. I mean, think about Bob Myers and Dave Roberts dumping their ring. That's 7 rings right there, Thriller. That's 7 rings, that UCLA Bruins have architected. And then when you combine those 7 rings with Wasserman, with Peters, and then Chesney talked about the committee and just said, these guys, these 3-4 guys are not going to let this program fail. They are going to do everything in their power to do what they can. That they got Troy on speed dial. I know there were some conversations today with Troy about the NIL. Had to believe that he was sort of referencing Dante Moore there, that, hey, I wrote a big check and the guy left. But I think Troy's going to going to write some checks too, I think, in the next year or so, once he sees the energy, once he sees the results. So, look, there's nothing like it. When this place has football right, there's just nothing like it in terms of how the feeling goes with the alumni, with this university as a whole. We are waiting for it. I am aching for it, Thriller, that this is the start of a new day. But definitely, it just feels different. I know a lot of people sort of reference the time with Chip, of course, that, that felt like a home run hire at the time, and it certainly did. But I have to be honest with you. Chesney is embracing Los Angeles, in a way where it's a little different. I think even in that opening press conference with Chip so many years ago, it was more about, hey, I'm Chip Kelly. I've done all of these things. I'm coming to LA because I can just be one of many people, right? Like, remember at that time, it was Florida and UCLA, and everyone was saying, look, if he goes to Gainesville, like, Florida football is everything. I mean, he's going to be a huge fish in a small pond. He's going to have to deal with all this media. He's going to have to deal with all of this. He sort of chose LA so he could almost sort of hide in plain sight, if you will. He could just be another guy, which I think in retrospect, that was problematic because you don't come to LA for what it isn't. You come to LA for what it is. And today it felt like Bob Chesney is coming to LA. Bob Myers asked him, why UCLA? And he said, everything that we talked about, the academics, it's a sleeping giant. I'm ready to take this biggest media market in the world and blow the top of it. I want my kids to be raised here. I want to live in Los Angeles. The fact that he's embracing that culture to the degree that he is from day one, I think is going to pay massive dividends when it comes to NIL sponsorships, when it comes to getting more money in the door, and when it comes to sort of really that brand enhancement as it pertains to attendance and all of those other things.
Yeah, no, it's going to take all of us really to make this thing run. Like, we want to pack the Rose Bowl again. We want to get these crowds out here. We got to donate some money to NIL. We got to find the right donors. And that was one of the talking points between Martin and Chesney, was really tapping into the alumni and how great and, all the extended achievements that this beautiful alumni has done for UCLA, to get out there and be proud and really re-engage with the community. And I think Chesney's got a really good point on that. So I think it's just really encouraging. I want to tip my cap too to the UCLA Avengers, if you will. The search committee could not have done a better job. I think, Casey got named first, when they were doing the thank yous, and rightfully so. Somebody's got to write the checks around here. But I mean, Dave Roberts coming in, like you said, man, it's October baseball in LA, and it was win or bust for the Dodgers. Like, everyone knows that. They're probably about to get Tarek Skubal right now. I don't know if you guys have seen that, which is insane, the 2-time Cy Young Award winner. But it's just one of those things where it's like even Dave Roberts made time for UCLA because he loves it and he cares about the university and wants to see it succeed. So I just think, man, like at the end of the day, UCLA is in as good as a position as I can remember, as somebody that's covered the team probably since 2011, 2012, and even with those Chip press conferences, I think this will be the final point I make on the Chip stuff, is like with Chip, it felt like the university was, just hiring him to bring himself in and kind of just run a football program. Today, it felt like the university was all in on our guy, Bob Chesney, and welcoming him here. And it's a unit, it's a team. And it was just a beautiful thing, man. And I think everyone feels the same. If Ben Bolch is, being positive and really excited about this, we love Ben. It's a great day to be alive and be a Bruin.
No, it's a great day to be alive and be a Bruin, Thriller. And I mean, just think about this. I want all Bruin Nation and all of our friends and our community to think about this. The two greatest professional dynasties in sports the last 15 years were architected or managed by Bruins. I mean, think about the Golden State Warriors and think about the LA Dodgers. I mean, how many World Series rings are the Dodgers going to win here, Thriller, in the next 5 or 6 years? This is a dynastic team. We all know the Warriors have been the face of the NBA the last 15 years. You got Bruins and that Bruin spirit and those Bruin values and that Bruin intellect leading those teams, those iconic teams. Why can't the epicenter of what makes all of those individuals common, namely being UCLA Bruins, get back? And the only thing that has been stopping UCLA the last 25 years has been UCLA. It's just been either a lack of focus or a lack of priority or other things coming in the way or not pushing hard enough. I think now everyone realizes NIL is here, transfer portal is here, revenue sharing is here, college football playoff is here, media rights deals are here. You're not going to be able to fight that. Now what you have to do is you have to embrace it and go all in. And if schools like we talked about, Thriller, if the Indianas and the Texas Techs and the BYUs can become instant contenders so quickly, why not us? Why not here? And why not now? And I'm just thrilled with where we're headed, Thriller. And I'll hand it over to you. Also a very interesting day with some of the marketing material coming out of the Rose Bowl today. It's starting to feel like, we might be back in the Rose Bowl. And, which is sort of what you and I have been saying all along. This isn't about moving the team. This is about enhancing the product, enhancing the visibility, enhancing the brand, and everyone will come. There is no greater pre-game experience in my mind in college football than that golf course we at the Rose Bowl and enjoying it. And there is no greater setting than a college football game at 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m., the sunset in San Gabriel Mountains. You have the number one public university in the world that's playing in the number one most iconic college football stadium in the world. And now you're starting to get all of the resources in place. Look, we got some great friends, Thriller, at LAFB. A great one of ours, Coach Rowe, would always say, ain't no fun when the rabbit has the gun. And it sounds like the rabbit is starting to get the gun.
Yeah. And sometimes, in life, how many great stories have we heard where, somebody famous or some team hits rock bottom and then they climb their way back out of it to become a success story. And that's what it's feeling like with UCLA football. We had to hit that rock bottom to experience the highs we are about to experience with this team moving forward. So it's really encouraging. I hope for the matter we do go back to the Rose Bowl because, man, there's no setting in college football that could put a candle to that. There's a reason people want to make it the national championship every single year within the sport. I mean, the tailgating scene is as good as it comes. And for as beautiful and shiny as SoFi is, it's a professional stadium. You need some character with some of these college stadiums, and there ain't nothing like it going out there. So hopefully we are back in the Rose Bowl. They're making some beautiful renovations to it, which I'm really encouraged by. So just really hopeful that we can have Chesney playing in the Rose Bowl next time around. And dude, opening game next year, we got to go to this. It's Cal up in Berkeley.
No doubt.
Snoop Bowl against Mr. Bob Chesney for both of their debuts. I mean, Cal, UCLA, are you kidding me? To start this off, that's about as good as it gets, brother.
No, it's about as good as it gets. It's going to be so exciting. I think you, me, and Papa Madney are going to do a road trip up there. That's for sure.
Sure.
You could potentially got the two new coaches. You potentially have Nico versus JKS, 5-star for 5-star. Obviously, everything about this sort of sibling rivalry when it comes to the Calamoni, first game to sort of get that enthusiasm going, it's going to be absolutely dynamite. But Thriller, I think you said it best. As far as press conferences go, and you can't win, press conferences don't translate into wins. They don't translate into trophies. But as far as press conferences go, this was as good as it went. And we've had some rough ones. I won't, sort of go into, you all probably know what I'm talking about. We've had a couple rough ones here the last couple of years. I don't think we're going to have any rough ones with this man and his vision and his passion and his enthusiasm. The intersection, Thriller, of Dick Vermeil, Sean McVay, and Pete Carroll is what we're saying. And those are the types of results we're looking for. Thriller, anything else you want to close with? And I just want to kind of reiterate how much we care that our fans, we got another 150 people here joining us. It's late. It's 9:30, on a weeknight. And so just so grateful that you want to spend a few minutes of your precious time with the Thriller and myself. But Thriller, anything you want to sort of close with?
Yeah, man. So the only goal we've had with this was to, make a podcast for UCLA fans that we go all in on and the fan base can be proud of. So that's all we want. And in order to do that and continue doing that, I need people to like and subscribe this podcast because, man, the more opportunities we can get, the more we can keep this podcast going. If you guys like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, I don't even like saying it at times, but just in this current media environment, that's what we're going to need to keep this thing going. So guys, please like and subscribe. It means the absolute world to us. We're going to have just a ton more lives coming soon. I was just direct messaging our friend Ben Bolch. He might be coming on next week. I was talking to our guy, Chris Johnson, yesterday. He wants to come on and talk about Gonzaga, UCLA, maybe post-game on Saturday. Check us out. We're going to have basketball coverage all year long. And guys, do not forget, we are alive. We are proud to be Bruins today. We're going to have the best possible offseason all coming your guys' way.
Yes, sir. How fun is this going to be, Thriller? We got JMU in Oregon, and then Chesney. He talked about double dipping a little bit and needing to sort of balance that the next couple of days and couple of weeks. But man, oh man, what an offseason this is going to be. His staff, everyone that's going to go on with, that 15-day window in the portal early January is going to be bananas. How many guys can he pull from JMU? How many guys can he pull elsewhere? That's going to be such a huge storyline. And then obviously that'll take us into spring ball. I mean, seeing him running practice for the first time, seeing how the guys resonate to him, seeing who's going to emerge in terms of, depth chart and whatnot. I mean, this is going to be a 24/7, 365 offseason for UCLA. It really feels that way. We quote Drumline all the time, where they say, look, around here, halftime is game time. This season, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The offseason is the real season with the way this season has gone and the way it's played out. So our content, Our coverage is only going to enhance, Bruin Nation, for you. We love this place so much. We love you so much. And before we get out of here, gotta pay the bills to Will's point. Number one sports app on the market today, the Sleeper app. Real-time stats, immersive engagement, one-stop shop for all of your needs. You can have all kinds of parlays, over-unders, various combinations of lines, and really use that promo code UCLA LAFB. $100 off your match bonus. You get 100. You put in 100, you get 100. 100 becomes 200, and you're off and running there. Tell them the guys from the LAFB network sent you, and use that promo code UCLA LAFB. Well, Thriller, another great one in the books. It is just so meaningful, when football has it right. Man, oh man, is it so meaningful around here. And so, look, again, this is just step one of the Chesney plan coming together. We're going to monitor the NIL. We're going to monitor the coaching staff. We're going to monitor the transfer portal. And let's get this thing right, Bruin fans. And let's be passionate. And let's understand, we got to pack the Rose Bowl, whether it's SoFi, whether it's the Rose Bowl, whether it's Drake, whether it's a parking lot, whether it's Bakersfield, whether it's Victorville, wherever this team plays next season, it's going to be the Rose Bowl. Wherever this team plays next season, we got to pack it in, because you got to be loud. You got to be proud. You got to be passionate, Bruins. And like we always say, 4's up forever, baby, and good night.